Hello and welcome to Badger Castle Creations. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made these space wizards, so I hope you enjoy. So I wanted to make some Psykers for a sci-fi RPG, and until now I've been using models from Stargrave because they're very good value for money and you get lots of bits so you can make custom characters. Now unfortunately they don't do a Psyker box, but what they do is a wizard box for Frostgrave. And I thought to myself, aren't Psykers just wizards in space? And if you look at most Psyker models, they have things like staffs and books and scrolls and orbs. Well, if you look inside the wizard box, it comes with lots of staffs and scrolls and books and orbs. So I thought I'd take some wizards and sci-fi them up a bit. So, starting with the wizard kit, I selected a torso for my first space wizard. For the first one, I kept things fairly simple and decided to just make an alien wizard. I started with this natural looking torso and the corresponding staff, aiming for a down-to-earth look for the first wizard. In the wizard set, I saw this hand holding a skull, and it gave me an idea. Rather than using that arm, I took one of the open-handed arms and selected an alien skull from the Citadel skull kit. I got this squid head from the Stargrave mercenary box. I assembled a base from some scraps of cork and cleaned up any mold lines on the model pieces. I then beveled the edges of the cork, glued the torso to the base, and then glued all the other pieces onto the torso. For the second model, I wanted a more grim-dark appearance. I chose this torso with two satchels, as well as this book and a spell-casting arm. I then selected a hooded gas mask head from the Stargrave scavenger set. I think it blends quite well with the torso, but I did notice afterwards that the model now has two hoods, but that's fine. I made an industrial base with some knitting mesh, a cable tie, and a paperclip. I then glued all the currently selected pieces together. I then decided to modify the mask slightly, as I didn't like the trunk-like appearance that it had, so I trimmed it down. I then selected some accessories for the piece. I chose this holster from the scavenger set that the head came from, and then found this small mechanical device in the Stargrave crew set. I decided to add a small wire going from the device to the gas mask, and with that, the model was complete. With both models complete, it was now time to paint them. I primed both models with Army Painter's brush-on primer. I then cleaned up the base for the first model using some sterling mud to help blend all the cork together, but you can easily use any texture paste or even make your own. For the first model, sticking with the natural look, I decided to go for primarily earth tones. I based the lower half of the robes in Deathworld Forest and the upper half in Warboss Green. For the staff and pouch, I used Morfang Brown. For the head and hands, I decided to use Squig Orange, and for the rope, I used Morghast Bone. I painted the skull with a mix of Morghast Bone and Xandri Dust, and painted the base with XV88, and also dry brushed a little onto the bottom of the model's cloak. I dry brushed some highlights onto the staff with Xandri Dust. I went over the whole model with a wash of Agrax Earthshade, only avoiding the hands and head, which I then washed with a right guard flesh shade. Once the wash was dry, I painted the eyes and the orb on the staff with Araman blue, and then I went back with the original greens for some highlights on the cloak. For the second model, I wanted him to look more dark and mysterious, so I based the cloak with Nagaroth Night. For the book, I painted the pages with Xandri dust, and then for the binding, I wanted to try and make it look like it was bound in flesh. So I mixed together some different shades using Cadian Flesh Tone and Corn Red, and roughly painted different patches to give it an uneven appearance. I mixed together a slightly lighter purple to give the cloak some highlights. I painted the straps, pouches, holster and gloves with Dryad bark. I painted the mask and the device in Abaddon black. I then dry brushed them with lead belcher. I mixed together a light brown for some edge highlights on the leather pieces. I painted the base with some lead belcher and then finished the whole model off with a wash of Nuln oil. And with that, both models were painted. So there we have, 2 Space Wizards. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.